let's react to Todd and Julie Chrisley finding out they were pardoned by President Trump and how they felt about it.
Now, let's jump to y'all finding out that you did get presidential pardons by President Trump. What was that like? I'll let you go first, Mom. How did you find out? The day that it was happening?
So I had work that day and went back upstairs. I showered, and I'm not a person who sleeps during the day, but I don't know. I felt off that day for some reason. So we had our 4:00 count, and I actually was just laying on my bed with my eyes closed. And someone comes to my door and like wakes me up. My bunkie was like, why do these people keep doing this? Why do they always want to wake you up? They always need something, want something.
It's the same thing they would say about me.
I was like, it's okay, Nikki, it is okay. And she said, well, I just wanted to let you know, Miss Julie, that I just saw your name on CNN. And I was like, on CNN? What were they wanting? Oh,
yeah, the Clinton
Lord.
News Network.
I said, was it across the bottom or was it like on the screen?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, it was like big. I said, okay. I was like, whatever. I told my bunkie, I said, Nikki, I'm going to go down and call Savannah. I'm going to find out what's going on.
I can almost guarantee that Julie's heart dropped to her ass. That's exactly how I would feel. Her heart must have dropped to her ass. This is just, to me, it's an amazing story. To anybody else, I don't know, but my opinion is my opinion, and I'm allowed to state it, and I'm very happy for Julie and Todd and their family.
So we have a tiny little box square room that houses 5 phones. As of the day I left, only 3 worked. So there was 3 phones for roughly 250 women. And so there was always a phone line, right?
Yeah.
So I go downstairs, get in the phone line. I sit there. Finally get in. I called you. You didn't answer. So I turned around. I called Gray. He didn't answer. I literally went to turn and walk out of the room.
Because at this point, it had already been released. And so my phone was blowing up to the point that it'd just say missed call.
So keep in mind, I went to walk out the door. Now, for those of you who don't know, once you walk out that door, you have to get in the back of the phone line again to...
There'd be times where she'd wait an hour to call.
Right. So something told me, try her number one more time. So I turned around, tried your number one more time, and you answered. And you just said, he signed it. And I just started crying. I mean, people, because it is a tiny little shoebox room. People were looking at me because, unfortunately, in prison, most of the news that you get is bad news.
Yeah.
You know, and so most of the time it's something horrible that's happened.
I think I yelled on the phone, you're coming home. You're coming home.
And I was like, what? And so you told me, and I walked out and I was crying. Everybody was like, are you okay? What's wrong? I was like, I'm getting out of here. And I walked toward the officer station.
Again, I'm sure her heart dropped into her ass for the second time. To be able to hear those words when they had gotten sentenced to years in prison. Years, like more than the 2+ years they spent in there. They were able to get out and be reunited, and this is awesome. I'm very happy for you guys.
She hung up on me. She said, I gotta go get ready. I'll call you back. Bye.
I walked toward the officer station, and one of the other girls, my next door neighbor that I work with too, she was right there, and she was like, what's wrong? Are you okay? What's wrong? What's happened? And I was like, he signed my pardon. And I was just dying. I was dying. And it was crazy because it was on a Tuesday. And they were having a church service for one of the chaplains, or not a chaplain, one of the volunteers that had been coming to Atwood for 40 years. So the chaplain and his wife were there, whom I love. And so she looked at me and she said, "Are you okay?" I said, "He signed my pardon." And she just grabbed me and hugged me and we prayed. It was amazing. It was amazing. So where I was such a small, we were in one building, so it didn't take 12 seconds for everybody to know your business. So it was literally like, we had to put like a sign over my window, a wiki up, so that nobody could see him, because people were coming to my door and like trying to bombard me and come in. It was crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I have to believe that this is all because of God. They're very God-fearing family, and I'm so happy for them, and for them to be able to be out and about with their family, getting that pardon from President Trump. I'm just so happy for them. I really am, you guys. What do you guys think about this? And now Todd tells how he feels and how he felt.
And Dad?
I was coming back from the library, and a guy stopped me on the sidewalk and goes, "I think you've been pardoned." And I said, "Okay." And I said, "Thanks." And let's get right on walking.
But also before this, you and I definitely had, when I would come and visit, we would have more in-depth conversations.
Yes.
And you had also, like, even on the phone, I kind of told you it's been 2.5 years, and you know me better than anybody. So you know I'd kind of reached a point of,
You had hit a wall.
like, I've done everything I can do, and everyone else's pardons were happening. Like, that week there was pardon after pardon after pardon, and I was just kind of like, you know what, I've done all I can do. It's clearly not going to happen. There's nothing more I can do. So that's kind of,
And I had
where
kind of
we were.
reconciled.
Yeah, that was kind of where we were at.
And so I go into my dorm, and one of the staff members comes walking to the front door. And so I'm coming this way, he's coming this way. And he opens the door and he goes, "You the hell up out of here."
And I know that Todd was very happy. He gets to see his kids. That was awesome. But more than anything, he got to be with his wife once again. Amen. God is great.
And I said, "What?" And he goes, "You've been pardoned. It's all over the news." And I'm like, I just blew this guy off on the damn sidewalk and said, "Yeah, okay, thanks." And so I said, "Are you positive?" And he said, "I'm positive. They just called and said, make sure I have eyes on you." And so I walked up and I called you. And you said, you answered the phone. And she answered my call in the first ring. She answered, and I said, "Savannah," and she goes, it's signed. You're coming home. I'm finding out the details now. I'm trying to get a plane. She's going through all the things that she's doing. And I said, okay.
So
I said,
did
"Well,
he
thank
know
you."
before I knew?
Yes, he knew before you knew. Yeah.
Look.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
He did.
It's okay.
And so I was walking back, and I remember seeing this one staff member who I just loathed. And she was walking down the sidewalk. She goes, "Chrisley?" I said, "Yes." "I hear you got a pardon." "That's a good thing, ain't it?" I said, "It ain't gonna be for you when I get out of here." And kept right on walking. I went back, packed up all my stuff, gave all my stuff to my kids.
When he says my kids,
They're my kids that I adopted in prison.
Yeah.
Because all the young kids, the counselor would send them to my pod because I wouldn't let them have long hair and that long beard and all that mess. I made them go to the barbershop, knock it down to 2, clean themselves up. We had a clean pod. We ate together every night. We had a schedule, and everybody had their cleaning duties. And everybody made their beds, and everybody did their laundry.
yeah.
So I went back and I got my kids, and I came in and I gave Tanner all my sweats and my because he was my size. So I gave him all my sweats and my tennis shoes. I gave Aaron all my food because, I had like 4 lockers. You ain't supposed to have but one, so let me go ahead and clarify that you're supposed to have one. But I went ahead and gave all my food and stuff to
That
Aaron.
was so very nice of Todd to give all that stuff to his children, as he says. I can imagine that he was exactly like that in prison. You can kind of tell what kind of people the Chrisleys are, and I could see them doing stuff like this, and that is awesome that they've cared for people that probably didn't have anybody to care for them, especially being locked up and not having money for canteen, commissary, whatever you wish to call it. Thank God those men and women had Todd and Julie with them during the time they did, because they got to feel loved and cared for, and it's just awesome.
And then I gave my coat. I had a little windbreaker jacket that I never wore because it really wasn't that nice looking. And so I gave that to somebody else who really wanted it. And I was ready to go. I had all I had was my little black legal notebook where I told on everybody, and I took that with me.
Yeah, he literally walked out with one notebook, and that was it. He left. He gave everybody all of his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I did too.
And so did you, but it was crazy because even when Dad got in the car, he was still in shock. He was like, I feel like there was some anxiety like about driving out, because it's like, am I supposed to be doing this?
Well, I think that for me, you become conditioned to your surroundings, and I did not have as bad as the surroundings were. And when I say surroundings, I'm talking about the buildings, the conditions, and some of the corrupt staff, and the warden there who was so corrupt. The men as a whole became my brothers, because I've never had that camaraderie. I never wanted to be around a bunch of men.
Yeah.
And I say that it was one of the greatest things, because I was able to listen to grown men sit and cry about their life, about the abuse they've gone through, about the mother that gave them away, or the father that had abused them, or the fact that they never could go to school because they had to work. And here they've gone to prison, and their wife is having an affair, and one just got served with a divorce, or some.
The two of these people, Julie and Todd, treated the people in prison as if they were real relatives of theirs. The way they treated them, how they cared for them, how they helped them, how they supported them. I just think it's awesome. And the fact that both of them told those people that they're not going to be forgotten. And I truly believe that Todd and Julie are not going to forget them. They grew bonds with these people, and I think it's awesome.
One lost a child in a car accident, and I realized that the Bureau of Prisons, the only thing that they have, in my opinion, that they get right is it's the greatest equalization tool that I've ever been involved in. Yes. Because we are all the same.
Absolutely.
And if the world would take on that concept that we are one, the world would be a better place. Because I'm here, even though I had access, to more than what a lot of people had.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't get money put on their commissary.
Right.
And I bought food for a lot of people there. And, if they didn't, and if they needed clothes or something, I'd put it on my commissary sheet and I'd get it. But I think that for me leaving, you have to remember when I was walking out, Mamala, who was our unit team, he came because, of course,
he told me he didn't want any problems with me.
Yes.
He didn't want to be in the press.
I walked in, and they motioned for me to come back, and I said, "What now?" And he goes, "We're trying to get you out of here. It's just not loaded up in the system yet."
Right.
I said, "Okay." And so I called Savannah, and he said, he says, "If it doesn't load before 5 o'clock, we'll have to do it tomorrow." So I went up there and called Savannah. She goes, "Hell no, it's not." She said, "It's signed." She said,
"Let me go."
She said, I'm going to hold a press conference right in front of the gates." And I said, no. And before I could even say no, shit already hung up. So I'm like, she is going to stir shit up before I walk out these doors. And so I go back and I open the door to Mamala's office, and I said, "I'm just going to be 100% transparent with you. I went and told on you for saying you was going to make me wait until tomorrow, and now she's holding a press conference out the front gate. Well, about that time, it came on the radio, you have eyes on so-and-so, you have eyes on, talking about me. And they always did that. They had to make sure that they knew where I was all the time, even when none of this was going on.
Yeah, but when he was sitting in the office back there when they had him, then you got all these people coming in that work there that want to try to talk on the phone with me and be like, oh, but I was one of the good ones. I said,
Yes, the staff was literally going to her saying, now, you can ask your dad, I'm one of the good ones. I'm one of the good ones. Well, they wasn't but 5 good ones out of 100. So, I mean, your ratio ain't good. But Mamla said, well, what do I do? And I said, well, if I was you, I said, I'd walk out there. I said, and introduce yourself. I said, and let her know what's going on. He goes, I don't want no part of the press. I said, well, she's going to put you in it anyway. I said, so you might as well let him put a face to a name. Right. So he walked out there, and then what did he say to you?
He said, I'm just trying to help here. I don't want any problems with you. I don't want to be in the press. Like, I'm here to help you. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, if you're here to help me, then you need to make this happen.
Okay, this is both Julie and Todd's story of how they found out they were pardoned, how they felt about it, and then they talked about some of the inmates they were in there with. And I must say, this is awesome. I knew they were that type of people, and I didn't have concrete evidence, but look at how they're treating people in prison. They're being non-judgmental. They promised them they would not be forgotten. They haven't forgotten them. Todd is always discussing his children, as he calls them. And I just want to thank you guys. If you ever come across this video, thank you for being just some awesome Christian family, and thanks for caring about the people that are in prison that don't have anybody to care about them or love them or support them. Thank you very much. And what do you guys think about this whole story? What do you think about this video? Please like, subscribe, leave a comment. I also have merch from Teespring. It's recovery merch. So, I don't know if the people watching this video would be interested, but it's recovery merch, sobriety and addiction recovery merch. So if you want to check that out, the link is in my bio here on YouTube. Everyone have a great day, and remember, God loves you.